Today I am going to narrate a short story on the topic Wamla's umbrella. In the remote village of Kengmo, one never saw an umbrella in the days of my youth, the early 1970s. No, not even the richest man in the village had one. When it rained unbearable hard, the village folks would conveniently pull the upper portions of their garments over their heads and run for cover. Like most of the village children, I would seldom do it. In fact, I would even run out and play in the rain with my playmates. If we ever got sick after playing in the rain, it was because of the cold. But then, that is another story. As I was saying, nobody in the village had an umbrella. In fact, I had never seen one until the day my Mimi brought one home from Gudama. Like many others from the village, Mimi went to Gudama once every year to trade with the Indians. So, after one of his trips, he brought home an umbrella. That year, the very next morning after his return from Gudama, he asked me to accompany him to the village monastery to make some offerings to our guardian deities. Full of enthusiasm, I was running all over the house trying to be useful to my mother as she packed up a big bangchum of rice with some hard-boiled eggs, fried salted dry fish, some fresh onion leaves, a small palang of para, a kettle of melted palm oil, some fruits, candies, and biscuits for the monastery. I dropped a thing or two or tripped over one thing or another, time and again, trying to get things done a little faster. Jimmy, please stop trying to help me, or I will see to it that your Mimi goes to the monastery alone, warned my mother frigidly. You are not being useful to me at all. Just sit beside Mimi and let me do the begging, suggested my mother. Listen to your mother, Lipo, and come and sit here, seconded Mimi, dutifully. At last, but letting my secretly showing me a candy without the notice of my mother. He always addressed me, Lipo, and seldom by my given name. I liked it though, since I understood that an elder calls one dumb. However, I always addressed him Mimi and never used his second name, unlike other people, except my mother, who just addressed Mimi as Appa. People called him Mimi Wamla. I did not like it. I mean his second name. I felt bad even when others used it. My Mimi did not look like a bear, so I would not have anyone call him Wamla, which means the male bear. But then again, I must confess that he was not the only one who was called a bear. There was also a man called Domchungla, which meant the same thing. I also had a girl playmate who was nicknamed Domchungmo, a female bear. Anyway, that is that about my Mimi's name and the Doms. I sat beside him quietly but greedily crunching on a candy in my mouth. Usually I would rather hold the candy between my thumb and index finger by one end and lick the other end miserably. However, that morning I could be a little extravagant, since I knew there was more candies coming. All I had to do to get another one was bother my mother or run all over the place. By the time I had eaten 4 candies and was pressing my luck for a 5th, we were all set to leave for the monastery. Whoop went up the umbrella, followed by a tug. I stepped backward, stood frozen and stared on musically as Mimi hoisted it over his head. Come and walk beside me, he beckoned to me. I stood beside him, my eyes still fixed on the umbrella over our heads. Mimi held me close to his big muscular thigh with his right hand firmly and anchored on my right shoulder, while, I couldn't help myself from staring at it. Holding the umbrella with his left hand, as we started to walk, I tripped over a small boulder since I was staring at the umbrella rather than concentrating on the footpath. Lipo, don't stare at the sky while walking. Keep your eyes on the footpath, advised Mimi. Mimi, what is this? I asked, pointing my index finger at the umbrella after having stared at it for a while. So you were staring at the Nindu, he concluded. Nindu, I exclaimed impatiently. Yes, this is what it called, he said. It gives one shade against the sun and the rain. He introduced me to the functions of the umbrella. So that was that, but I thought that it looked wonderful over one's head, and I moved even closer to Mimi's big thigh, not wanting to be outside its cover. Well, I could not help myself from staring at it. I had seen a similar one, only bigger and colorful, being hoisted over guru bushes, hit by a monk during the Guru Tsenge in manifestations of Guru Rinpoche Mark's dance at the annual session at Rinzin. But that Nindu was nothing like Mimi's. Unlike that Nindu, Mimi's was black all over with shiny silver iron rods, frames, and much shorter brown cane handle that was hooked at the lower end. Furthermore, Mimi's Nindu could be conveniently held with just one hand. One did not need a monk to hold it over one's head. Could also be kept hanging upside down from almost everything in a corner of a room while not in use. I guessed that was the way one could make use of the hooked handle. However, I was not the only one who was staring at the umbrella with admiration as Mimi and I walked casually through the village towards the monastery on the hilltop. The sight of the umbrella drew all my playmates and almost all the children in the village to us. Some children just could not muster up the courage to approach us, so they looked on sheepishly and shyly from a distance. Other children either followed us or walked beside us or hooked backward in front of us with their eyes fixed on the Nindu. This is called a Nindu, I taught all the children gathered thus. To those staring from a distance, I even cried out the message at the top of my voice. All the while, the Mimi wore a big smile and walked more and more rhythmically, like a child showing off his new boots. The magic of the umbrella worked on the village elders as well. Some ran out of their houses, while others left their milking cows, partially milked, or their breakfast half-eaten, or threw down their farm implements in the field and approached us to have a closer look at the umbrella. After a while, at least 24 men, women, and children surrounded us. There was also an air of never-ending questions, ranging from "What is this?" and "Where did you get it from?" and "How much have you paid for it?" to "Will you barter it with?" and "Will you sell it?" Mimi answered everyone's question the best way he could, but always emphasized that his umbrella was just for himself and that he would not part with it for anything. The people touched it, felt it, and if I remember correctly, I think some even sniffed at it. Well, that was not the end of the commotion. 2 days later, Amatuji came to see Mimi with a palm of wine. "I have not been able to come and thank you for the dry fish you sent me, Mimi Wamla," she said, sitting face to face with Mimi. "I have nothing to offer to you but some ara," she continued, as she put the palm between them. "I don't know how good it is, but I have distilled it this morning from the stock that has been fermented for more than 5 months." She added, as modestly as she could, but indirectly, or was it directly, conveying the message that her ara ought to be quite good. "You should not have taken the trouble, Tuji," remarked Mimi courteously. "It is not often that I have something to offer you, Mimi," she countered as she served Mimi a wooden cup full of ara from the balloon. "Why don't you join me?" offered Mimi. "I think I should not," she pretended to be hesitant. "But maybe I will keep you company, Mimi," she added in haste. "They say that liquor is good only as long as you have someone drinking beside you," she justified her decision. "Very true, Tuji," agreed Mimi. "That is the reason more than good enough for you to join me. inquired the lady. Not too bad, summed up Mimi. I was told that you have brought an interesting item from Bhutan, exclaimed the lady, blushing slightly. Oh, yes, I have brought a Nindu. I was wondering if I could have a look at it, requested Amatuji politely. Sure, I will show it to you right away, agreed Mimi, getting up instantly and walking into his bedroom to fetch it. Here it is, announced Mimi as he came out of his room with the umbrella. He opened the umbrella and rotated it by spinning it by the hook with his right hand while balancing it with his left. It is a very handy thing to have and a very convenient thing to carry around too, he said enthusiastically. It can be used to protect oneself from sun and rain. It can also be used as a walking stick and to chase away ferocious dogs while traveling places, he lectured. Amatuja got to her feet excitedly and hurried towards Mimi, meeting him halfway across the room. She reached out for the umbrella, to which Mimi replied. She looked at it from every angle, opened it, closed it, opened it again, and finally hoisted it over her head. Then she sheepishly looked at Mimi, hesitated for a moment, and blurted, Mimi, will you sell it to me by any chance? No, Tuji, I won't, was Mimi's blatant answer. Tuji has even offered me a year-old female calf in exchange for it, but I told him that it isn't for sale, added Mimi coldly. I will offer you more than what Tuji did, insisted Lady. No, I won't part with it for anything, declared Mimi. It is a gift from an Indian friend across the border in Mela Bazaar, he lied. As you know, one must never part with a gift given to him with love and respect by a friend, he added. After that, the two did not converse much. They had another round of wine, more out of courtesy than anything else. Right after the last drop of wine, Amatuje's cup has been gulped down almost urgently. She left with the remaining palang of wine. The next morning, Mimi wanted to mend one of his torn garments outside in the sun. Halfway through patching up the torn garment, he asked me for another favor. And the favor, well, he wanted to be Gorobochi and me to be the monk, holding the umbrella over his head while he did this way. But honestly, I was treated better than the monk, who at least asked me to stand under the umbrella, to which I happily obliged. Just then, the village monastery's Doji, the second in command during religious festivities and rituals in the monastery, came by and greeted Mimi, who had not even noticed the man. Yeah, I did not see you, Lopen, apologized Mimi and reciprocated the elderly man's greetings. I was told you came back from Bhutan 4 days ago, exclaimed the man. Yes, Lopen, replied Mimi. So you have brought this Nindu from Bhutan? Yes, Lopen. Such a fine piece of equipment, remarked the Lopen, his face full of smiles. It certainly is, Lopen, agreed Mimi. Useful, rain or shine, the Lopen remarked in a weak, hoarse voice that I would not have heard if I was not as attentive as I was at that moment. And I have to do it, rain or shine. It is a hard life, said Lopen with a heavy sigh, his eyes unmoving from the umbrella in my hands. Very true, Lopen, said Mimi without looking at the man in red robes, and continued walking on his torn garments. I think a Nindu like this will make my life much easier to live, the Doji Lopen said finally, with the hope that my Mimi might offer the umbrella to him, since Mimi was a very religious man, and he, as the Doji Lopen, was well respected and a highly learned practitioner of Buddha Dharma. To this, Mimi's forehead was an ocean of wrinkles. It looked like Mimi understood that the Doji Lopen was trying to lure the umbrella away from him. I think so too, Lopen, agreed Mimi, to my disappointment. Then he gave a long sigh, shook his head from side to side. How I wish the color of this Nindu was red or yellow instead of black, so that I could have offered it to you, Lopen. I would have been most happy to offer this
priceless possession of mine to you, Lupin. But you will agree with me that black is not the color for a revered religious person like yourself, added Meme smartly, to my utmost relief. Very true, Meme Wamla, very true indeed, agreed the Doge Lupin half-heartedly and walked away. Yet again the umbrella was saved. There was no possible way that Meme would part with his umbrella so easily. He was going to keep it for himself at all cost. Meme took the umbrella wherever he went. He used it all the year around in rain and in sun, and even when there was neither of them. However, as the time went by, the umbrella began to gradually break down. The black cotton cloth torn over time and again. Meme patched it up tirelessly an equal number of times, taking utmost caution not to damage it any further in the process. Initially, he would search the house inside out for a piece of wood that looked almost like that of the umbrellas, wherever he had to patch up the torn umbrella. As the patching became more frequent, he used whatever cloth piece he could lay hands on. Surprisingly, this practice in fact gave the umbrella a facelift. At least I thought so. I really liked the color patches on the umbrella. However, after Mimi had already patched and repatched the umbrella about a dozen times, even the iron rods that served as pillars for the umbrella by holding the cotton cloth together began to give way. Again, initially he tried the broken part together with strong fibers from different ornamental plants. Later, as the severity of the breakages intensified, he replaced them with canes that were strengthened by smoking them on the oven. He used most of the salvaged iron rods to make sewing needles, to sew leather, bags and shoes, and some of them to make darts for me. Finally, when the canes broke down as well, he strapped the umbrella necked. This is still good, he said, slashing the air with the cane that had an iron helmet and a hook leg. It would make a good walking stick for me. I need one for my back legs anyway, he added with a chuckle. But then, the umbrella had been in Kangmo for over a year. And that year, while other men and women left for Gudama, my Meme did not. I am too old to make such a journey anymore, he confided in me. Your mother will have to replace me now, added sadly. When my mother and the other travelers came back from Gudama, almost everyone brought home a black umbrella. Besides bringing one for herself, my mother had brought one for me too. The village was full of black umbrellas that year. Anyway, let's get back to my Meme's umbrella. The old can serve faithfully as my Meme's walking stick for as long as it could. Finally, some kind of insect, I think it looked like a small troublesome wasp, made a hole in it one day against Meme's knowledge and utter disapproval. One fateful day, the poor cane broke on half as Meme tried to stand up while using it for support. There goes my faithful stick, was Meme's dismal remark. It sure served me more than triple its worth money, he added. He was sad but fully satisfied with the stick's long and trying services to him, first as a frame of this umbrella and then as a walking stick. He stared at the broken cane for a long time. Then he summoned my mother and said, "Kezang, please do not burn it. Put it in the attic and let it rest there." Soon after, my parents and I left home and settled down in Thimphu. There I went to school, grew up into a man, and found a job. 24 years back later, I paid a visit to my birthplace, which I had left behind and could not visit since the age of 11. When I reached my birthplace, I observed that there was almost nothing left of the way I remember my village. Everything had changed. An umbrella was nothing special in the village anymore. The village people wore sports wristwatches, cowboy hats, and even designer shoes and dark sunglasses. They were also expecting to be able to watch television soon, since the silver-colored electric bulbs have already been installed in the next village, and that was only a about 5 kilometers away. Everything that I remembered of my birthplace, except the mountain ranges, the small stream, and the monastery on the hilltop, was gone. Even the very house where my meme had lured me onto keeping quiet by giving me candies have been relocated and rebuilt with no resemblance at all to the original structure. I felt as if I was in a completely new place. If our old house has still been standing, I would have loved to search the attic for my meme's broken cane. But then, that was not possible anymore. I left the village the very next day with a heavy heart. Nevertheless, I learned one of the biggest lessons of my life. Never be away from what or whom you love for too long. If you do, much as you may love and remember them, they may not be there when you get back. And you may be left with nothing but some memories from a distant past. If you like this story, please like, share, comment and subscribe. Until then, thanks for being with me. Thank you.